Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, TURTONATOR. TURTONATOR is a Fire and Dragon type Pokemon with the moveset of Incinerate, Dragon Pulse, and Overheat. Now the typing is quite cool, but unfortunately, only having new charge moves means it is definitely going to struggle in just about everything but shields down situations. Nevertheless, since the Great League isn't currently available, I tested it out in some practice battles with members of my Discord. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out TURTONATOR in action in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a positive lead Water Gun Lantern into Nidoqueen. Opponent checks the fast move, then save switches into Umbreon. Umbreon is a bit of a difficult Pokemon for this team to handle. I'm going to stay in with the Lantern, tank a move, and then go for the Surf. This is very important chip damage as it will now put it into Blast Burn range for the Shadow Charizard. In comes the Shadow Charizard. Foul Play is going to do a lot here. Shadow Charizard is extremely glassy, but I will be able to tank it and then throw 4 wing attacks and go for the Blast Burn. No baiting here. Blast Burn will be lethal. Opponent is going to call the bait and Blast Burn KOs. Nidoqueen looks for the farm down, but Shadow Charizard says no, making it to the Blast Burn, and Blast Burn will get a shield from the Nidoqueen. I'm going to send back in the Lantern. The Nidoqueen does have an energy head start, but I have a shield advantage. So I'm more than happy to shield here. Nidoqueen is going to be firing off a Poison Fang there, and I'm going to be returning fire with the Surf. Surf should be grabbing a shield here if the opponent wants to preserve the Nidoqueen, and that's exactly what they want to do. This is just a Fang, so I'm going to let this go, and then it is TURTONATOR time. In comes TURTONATOR, and it's a simultaneous switch, TURTONATOR into Obstagoon. I'm looking to farm to 100 energy and then go for the Overheat. My opponent will fire off the Night Slash. That connects. They get the boost, and things are getting tough. I will expend the final shield here. This is a boosted Obstagoon. I'm going for the Overheat. I have to get rid of the Obstagoon. Overheat KOs the Obstagoon. In comes the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen cannot make the move. TURTONATOR with the debuffed Overheat takes out the Nidoqueen, and that's a good game. Picking up a Nightmare lead in the next match, Lantern into Shadow Venusaur. Immediate save switch into Shadow Charizard, and my opponent is going to respond with Umbreon. A neutral type matchup and Charizard with an energy lead means that I can make a play for switch. Blast Burn does massive damage onto the Umbreon, and now I can just go straight Dragon Claw. The difficult part of this matchup, landing a Blast Burn, has been completed, and after landing a Dragon Claw as well, all I have to do is shield one of their back-to-back foul plays, and I can take switch advantage. And that's big. Lantern is absolutely helpless against the Venusaur, whereas TURTONATOR is going to be double resisting those grass moves. My opponent sends in their final Pokemon, and it's Registeel, so they are ABA weak to fire. I massively overfarm, going for the Blast Burn here. Blast Burn will get the shield. Charizard trying to make it to the next Blast Burn. Picture perfect counting from my opponent as they fire off the Focus Blast to deny that energy. I'm going to send in Lantern now. Lantern, I'm basically just using as a damage sponge and saving the final shield for TURTONATOR. Zap Cannon connects. We do not see the attack drop. I'm going to continue to farm up. Opponent goes for the catch onto the Shadow Venusaur, and it is TURTONATOR time. Shadow Sludge Bomb will hit for neutral here. I'm going to let this go. Sludge Bomb connects. They're not going to be able to Vine Whip down. Venusaur makes the last second Frenzy Plant, and I will commit the shield. I'm going to leave this matchup with 100 energy, ready to punish the Registeel. Back in comes the Registeel, going for the Overheat. It connects, and that's game over. Hopping into the next match, leading Lantern into Shadow Alolan Ninetales. Let's check the fast move, and it's Powder Snow, so this is a very nice lead for Lantern. I'm going to fire off the Surf before they make it to the Dazzling Gleam. Surf is going to get them low. Opponent lets it through. Farm up, switch, and we catch the Dazzling Gleam onto the Shadow Charizard. Opponent baited with a Weather Ball, and suddenly I've made a pretty big miscalculation. I had a good lead, I gave up switch, I tried to get fancy and catch a move, and now I'm down a shield, and my Charizard is getting countered down by a Medicham. I build up to the Blast Burn, I'm able to get a shield with the Dragon Claw bait. That allows me to get some chip damage with a second Dragon Claw, but my opponent knows this is not a Blast Burn. So they can no-shield that, commit to the farm down, and they leave with quite a lot of energy to threaten the Lantern. I'm going to wait my timer and then send in the Lantern here. Lantern will be able to absorb the Psychic, and then I just have to hope that TURTONATOR can do well in the back. But unfortunately, since they led Ninetales, odds are they probably have a check to Fire type somewhere on the team. Opponent Thinking about it, they're gonna send in the final Pokemon, and it's a Shadow Charizard, and this game is over. I just don't have a win con here. Hydro Cannon will KO, and I can send in Turtonator. Due to Turtonator's cool typing, it is a Fire and Dragon type. It's only gonna take neutral from Hydro Cannon, but still, Hydro Cannon, whether it's neutral or not, is going to deal a lot of damage courtesy of Shadow Swampert. Hydro Cannon gets Turtonator low, and the Swampert gets the farm down. We see a neutral lead in the next match, Lantern into Registeel. Two better responses in the back, so I save switch into Shadow Charizard. Registeel's staying in, I go for the Blast Burn, and it's caught onto Lantern. What a beautiful catch by my opponent. But two Blast Burns basically KO here. I'm going to farm up, and I'm actually going to bait with the Dragon Claw here. I'm expecting my opponent to shield. Dragon Claw, no shielded by my opponent, but I'm able to hang on, withstanding the water guns, and make it to another Dragon Claw. And that will grab a shield from my opponent, and that is incredibly important, as I absolutely need shield advantage if Turtonator is going to do anything. They're going to fire off the Thunderbolt. I'm able to tank that. They're trying to make it to another Thunderbolt, but they do not get there. I'm looking to get some chip damage onto the Reggie, but they send in their final Pokemon, and it is Trevenant. This Surf, not going to deal a lot of damage, but in comes Turtonator. My opponent has so much energy here, I think I just have to tank a Focus Blast. I let it through, and my opponent baited with a Zap Cannon. Oh my goodness, that ends up being a massive call that might give us a win con. Overheat will KO the Reggie. I am now 3 times debuffed with Turtonator. At this point, they can just fire off Seed Bombs because I am rapidly running out of HP. I'm going to throw one Incinerate and go for the Overheat here. The question is, can I withstand these Shadow Claws and make another Overheat? Turtonator getting very low on HP with 1 HP remaining, makes one final Overheat. Get that Trevenant out of here, and that's a good game. Neutral lead in the next match, Lantern into Medicham. I'm going to immediately save switch into the Shadow Charizard to check and see what my opponent has in the back. My opponent is staying in this matchup, so it looks like they may be weak to Charizard. In that case, I'm going to bait with the Dragon Claw, and I'm able to get the shield. That is massive. I'm going to shield everything here. Even an Ice Punch would do quite a lot of damage. I'm going to look for the CMP tie to the second Ice Punch. My opponent reads me like a book and catches onto a Shadow Alolan Marowak. The thing is, Shadow Alolan Marowak did not appreciate that damage, and now a Dragon Claw will be lethal. Dragon Claw will get shielded. Opponent trying to keep switch advantage here. They're firing off a charge move, and I'm just going to let this through. They go for the Shadow Bone, and I think I can Incinerate down here. I'm going to send in Turtonator. Turtonator gets the Incinerate farm down and leaves with energy to take on whatever my opponent has in the back. They're thinking about it. They're going to send in Cresselia, and I'm going straight for the Overheat here. This will hit for some heavy neutral damage onto the Cresselia, and now I can send in Lantern. Lantern will take super effective damage from Grass Knot, but the important thing is I've reset the debuff from using the Overheat. My opponent is going to send in Medicham, but the important thing here is they left with an Ice Punch. They did not leave with a Psychic, so I can no shield there, and now I can farm up and go for a move just before they make their next Ice Punch. This Surf is going to KO. Opponent sends back in Cresselia, Lantern, making it to the Thunderbolt, and that will be game over here as Thunderbolt KOs Cresselia and secures the win. We see yet another neutral lead in the next match, Lantern into Sableye. I decided to stay in this matchup, although honestly, I don't feel that I played it well whatsoever. Here I go for the Surf, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to go for the Thunderbolt in this matchup because as you're going to see, Surf does quite a lot of damage, but I'm not able to threaten a farm down, whereas if I farmed up to a Thunderbolt and that connected, then I could potentially threaten a farm down. Whereas they're able to make another foul play, and this is just straight up going to KO me. I am going to have to shield the Charizard, but I'm going to go for a farm down here with the Charizard. Opponent gets greedy, and they do not make their move. Opponent made it to the foul play. They're potentially trying to make it to the return, and that might end up costing them in this endgame. This Blast Burn is going to get shielded by the Noctowl. Noctowl over farming, and they're met with yet another Blast Burn. Shadow Charizard, incredibly oppressive, doing what needs to be done, which is getting shields, so that way Turtonator, with its nuke moves, can do well when shields are down. In the back, it's Lurantis, one of my favorite off-meta Great League Pokemon, so I am not pleased about what's about to happen. Dragon Pulse gets the KO, in comes Noctowl, and I'm able to tank a move here. The thing about Turtonator is that it has a pretty nice stat product in typing, but unfortunately, the lack of a true bait move is really what's holding it back more than anything. I'm able to make it to the overheat and KO the Noctowl, and against all odds, we get a 2-shield flex. We see a core breaker in the next match, Lantern into Quagsire. I'm going to overfarm, look for the Mud Bomb catch onto Shadow Charizard, but I fail the catch. And now I'm in a difficult situation. Quagsire has a massive energy lead. I'm going to shield the Stone Edge and go for the Blast Burn. This is resisted, but Shadow Charizard hits like a truck. Blast Burn gets them incredibly low, but not quite enough to KO. My opponent now sends in a Lowland Sandslash. I'll be able to get a shield here with a Blast Burn, as that would absolutely cook the Sandslash. Ice Punch will KO, so I'm just going to let this through. My opponent goes for the Ice Punch. They undercharge, looking for more farm, but that ends up costing them as I make another Blast Burn. And now I'm able to grab both shields and send in Turtonator. Drill Run will deal massive super effective damage, but I do survive it. Opponent goes for the Ice Punch, recognizing that they do need 2 charge moves to knock out here. They're going to fire off the Drill Run just to get rid of the Turtonator, and now back in comes Lantern to get some farm. The question is, what do they have in the back? And they have Frostlass. I just have to watch for a catch onto the Quagsire. Quagsire does have a ton of energy banked. Surf, connects, I farm, opponent sends in the Quagsire. In case they have Earthquake, I will shield it. Turns out they do have Mud Bomb, they're not running double nuke. Back in comes the Frostlass, but Lantern with the energy, able to outpace, and that's game over. We see another core breaker in the next match, Water Gun Lantern into Altaria. Altaria beats this entire team, so basically right off the start, this is probably just going to be a loss. I send in the Shadow Charizard. They're staying in, which is what I need them to do, because this is the closest thing I have to an Altaria counter, but they can take a Dragon Claw, and I cannot take a Sky Attack. So I'm forced to go down a shield here. I am going to slightly overfarm and go for the Dragon Claw. They can very comfortably commit a shield, and then just fully farm me down here, as unfortunately Shadow Charizard does not make another Claw. I'm going to send in Lantern. My opponent is now going to send in Toxicroak. Toxicroak able to make it to a super effective Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb not going to KO, but it will get a lot of damage onto the Lantern. I'm now going for the Thunderbolt here. Thunderbolt will deal some solid damage onto the Toxicroak. We see a shield, and now in comes Turtonator. My only hope is if I can incinerate farm down here. I'm going to shield with the Turtonator. Come on, Turtonator. Let's see what you can do. Turtonator cannot get the farm down. It's just so slow. Mud Bomb KOs the Turtonator. I'm able to farm down the Toxicroak. We do get to see the third Pokemon as Registeel gets the lock-on farm down. Hopping into the final match, leading Lantern into another Medicham. Same game plan as before, immediate save switch into my Shadow Charizard, and my opponent responds with a Shadow Charizard of their own. I build up to the Blast Burn, bait with the Dragon Claw, and my opponent will commit a shield. I know that I tanked the Dragon Claw, so I am going to let this go. I'm going to try and make it to a second Dragon Claw, but I just cannot get there. Honestly, I'm still in an okay spot. I have shield advantage, and now I can get a monster farm with Lantern. Water Gun's absolutely shredding the Charizard. Charizard able to hang on and make it to the Blast Burn. This is going to hurt. Blast Burn rocks the Lantern, but Lantern does get the farm down. Medicham will be met with a Thunderbolt. My goal is I want to get big chip damage onto the Medi. That's able to connect. I continue to farm with the Lantern, forcing them to throw energy, and then it is Turtonator time. They go for the Ice Punch. That's not going to cut it. In comes Turtonator, and it's a Moltres in the back. Opponent running some incredible spice, and I'm shielding everything here. Moltres can learn Ancient Power. This one, it looks like is running Sky Attack and Overheat. I'm now going for the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse KOs the Moltres. Opponent not respecting the Turtonator, and Turtonator putting in some serious work. Dragon Pulse will get the shield. Opponent is going to fire off a charge move with the Medicham. I'm going to commit the shield. I'm going to force them to throw all of their energy here, and then I just have to hope that I can Water Gun down with Lantern. Ice Punch KOs. Lantern gets the farm down, and against all odds, we survive the Moltres and get the win. And now some final thoughts on Turtonator and its viability in Go Battle League. First off, I do think the typing is very cool. The fire and dragon typing do have some very cool synergy. However, I definitely feel like this is a Pokemon that's let down by its moveset. Incinerate and Overheat have potential, but Dragon Pulse is just a truly dismal charge move. So for Turtonator to see any meaningful play in basically any cup, it's definitely going to need some help in the moveset department, specifically getting rid of Dragon Pulse for a much better bait move. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.